When we look at the Tyranids, we tend to imagine them only as they appear during war, endless tides of bioforms, synapse creatures pulsing with psychic command, hive ships eclipsing suns, and a galaxy being stripped to the bone. But that is only the Tyranids in motion, the Tyranids while feeding. There is another state, a far more mysterious one, that exists in the quiet between apocalypses. A state almost no Imperium scholar has dared to explore because it requires asking a question that seems impossible. What does the hive mind experience when it is not actively hunting? What happens when the galaxy-wide predator rests? Do Tyranids dream? And if they do, what kind of nightmare can haunt a consciousness made from 1 billion devoured souls? To answer this, we need to first understand the most overlooked part of Tyranid existence, the void state. The fleets do not cross the universe in constant rage or constant motion. Much of their existence takes place in the silent intergalactic dark. Millions of years can pass between galaxies, with nothing but frozen stars and faint radiation as company. In that silence, there are no planets to consume, no prey to stalk, no synapse commands to broadcast across a battlefield. Yet the hive mind does not disappear. It does not die. It does not go dormant in the way a human mind turns off during sleep. Instead, it collapses inward, retreating from the surface level of tactical thought and sinking into something deeper, something ancient, something that may be more dangerous than the Tyranids themselves. This inward collapse is what we call the Tyranid Dream, not a dream of imagination or fantasy, but a psychic state where the hive mind becomes entirely introspective, folding into itself like a black hole consuming its own edges. To understand how horrifying this truly is, consider what the Tyranids absorb every time they consume a world. They don't just take DNA. They don't just take biochemistry. Every psyker who dies, every thought form that collapses into the hive mind, leaves an imprint, a psychic afterimage, a remnant of memory, sensation, instinct, and emotion. Over tens of thousands of worlds, these impressions accumulate into a psychic ocean filled with echoes of fear, rage, desperation, ambition, love, pain, triumph, and despair. When the hive mind enters the void, it sinks into this ocean. It experiences everything it has ever consumed all at once. Imagine a consciousness composed of billions of half-shredded memories, each battling for meaning, each dissolving into others, forming storms of ideas and sensations that no biological creature could withstand. This is the first layer of the Tyranid Dream, a sea of stolen memories, not images, not coherent narratives, but raw sensations from every species the Tyranids have devoured. The hive mind doesn't dream in images. It dreams in instincts. It dreams in chemical impulses, in the sensation of prey running, screaming, fighting back, dying. It dreams in the terror of psychers who felt the shadow in the warp consume them. It dreams in the last heartbeat of civilizations who realized too late that something beyond reason had come for them. But this is only the shallow part of the dream. Beneath it lies a far darker layer. If memories are a storm on the surface, then the deep below is a trench filled with something more powerful, genetic memory. Every Tyranid bioform, from a Hormagaunt to a hive tyrant, contains encoded instincts inherited from an origin point we have never seen. These instincts are not simply evolutionary, they are commanded, engineered, and purposeful. They contain relics of ancient prey, lost ecosystems, predators the Tyranids conquered before they even reached the Milky Way. The hive mind does not see them in the void. It feels them. It relives every evolutionary battlefield it has ever mastered. This is where the dream changes. This is where the hive mind begins to think about what it fears. Because even the greatest predator has something that can haunt it. Something it remembers not through conscious recollection, but through the deepest, most primal genetic imprint. Something that caused the Tyranids to leave their previous galaxy behind. Something that forced an entire cosmic apex predator species to flee across the intergalactic void in the first place. When the hive mind dreams in the void, it encounters this memory, not as an image, not as a creature, but as a pressure in the warp, a wound, a shadow behind its own shadow. The Imperium knows nothing about this entity, but the Hive Mind does. It knows because it created bioadaptations specifically to fight it, adaptations we have never understood. Why do some hive fleets have anti-warp traits? Why does the Hive Mind maintain layers of psychic encryption? Why do certain bioforms carry instructions that have no purpose in this galaxy? These are not accidents. These are remnants of an ancient war the Tyranids have been trying not to remember. The deep dream forces them to relive it, a memory so overwhelming that even the Hive Mind, with its impossibly vast psychic bulk, recoils from it. Not a creature, not a civilization, but a rival consciousness, a rival hunger, something that could not be consumed. Whether it was a galactic intelligence, a warp-born predator, or something else entirely is unknown. But the Tyranid Dream reveals the truth. The Hive Mind is not driven solely by hunger, it is driven by fear. Fear encoded so deeply that no amount of consumption can erase it. And here is where the dream becomes something more disturbing. In the void state, when the Hive Mind withdraws from the material plane, something stirs in the warp. Because the Hive Mind is not dreaming alone, the psychic echoes of billions of consumed souls begin to resonate. They form patterns, and those patterns attract attention. Voices from the warp brush against the edges of the Tyranid consciousness. Daemons cannot break into the Hive Mind, but they can observe. They can scrape against it. They can try to interpret the ocean of stolen memories. To them, the Tyranid Dream is like a wounded star, bright, chaotic, violent, and irresistible. This is the moment of danger, because the Hive Mind does not simply dream about its past, it senses eyes watching it, warp predators testing the edges of its defenses, demonic entities probing its subconscious, cryptic intelligences older than chaos, drifting closer, not out of hunger, but curiosity. The Hive Mind is an anomaly in the warp. It is not a soul, it is not a god, it is not a demon, and yet it is undeniably alive. That makes it a target. And in the deepest dream, the Hive Mind becomes aware of watchers circling it like sharks. Not the ancient foe that pushed it out of its old galaxy, but new threats, new predators, new possibilities. Many Imperial psychers who have brushed against the Tyranid Dream describe a feeling of being devoured from every direction. They don't see imagery, they don't see bioforms. They see an endless psychic ocean, and in that ocean, something massive and sleeping. Something that opens an eye the moment it senses a foreign thought. But what they never sense is the other presence, the one watching from behind, the one the Hive Mind is trying not to acknowledge, the one that sees the Tyranids the way Tyranids see prey. This is the true horror of the Tyranid Dream, not that the Hive Mind dreams, but that the dream becomes a battlefield where the predator becomes the prey. In these long intergalactic travels, the Hive Mind fights a silent war in its own subconscious, pushing back entities that would love nothing more than to hijack its psychic bulk, tear apart its genetic memory, and feed on the ocean of souls trapped within it. This explains the redundancy of synapse layers. This explains the psychic encryption. This explains why the Hive Mind is so resistant to chaos. It had to evolve these traits, not in this galaxy, but in the last one. And here is the final, terrifying thought. The Tyranid Dream might not be a dream at all. It might be a defensive posture, a psychic cocoon designed to shield the Hive Mind while it travels between galaxies, a place where it can compress itself, repair itself, reorganize itself, but a place that also traps it in its own memories, where it is forced to face the only thing that truly terrifies it, because somewhere out there, in the endless dark between galaxies, the ancient enemy the Tyranids fear is still searching, still hunting, still following. The Hive Mind does not dream because it chooses to. It dreams because it must, because the void is the only place where it dares lower its guard, even for a moment. And in that moment, it confronts everything it has ever consumed, everything it has ever lost, and everything it hopes never to meet again. What does the Tyranid Dream look like? It looks like an ocean of memories filled with prey that never stops screaming. It looks like a psychic labyrinth haunted by a shadow behind the shadow in the warp. It looks like a god made of hunger trying not to remember why it ran. And perhaps the most chilling truth of all is this: every time a Tyranid hive fleet drifts through the dark, the hive mind dreams not of victory, but of being hunted by something even greater than itself. And one day, that something may finally catch up. There is one more layer to the Tyranid Dream that almost no scholar has considered, because it requires accepting that the hive mind may experience something like time. Not linear time, but a cyclical rhythm that pulses through its consciousness whenever it drifts away from the waking galaxy. In this rhythm, the hive mind does not merely remember or fear. It anticipates. It prepares. It rehearses possibilities. The way a creature might tense before striking. The void becomes a simulation chamber where entire galactic futures are tested, rewritten, and discarded in moments. In this deeper layer of the dream, the hive mind plays out humanity's resistance, the Eldar's last stand, the Orcs' chaotic unpredictability, and the cold logic of the Necrons. It imagines every defense, every weapon, every failure. It sees every version of its own defeat, and then evolves past them before they can occur. This is not foresight. It is calculation amplified by 1 trillion absorbed neural patterns. And somewhere inside these simulations, the hive mind keeps encountering the same anomaly, a point at which its adaptations plateau, its strategies collapse, and its growth becomes unstable. A future where the Tyranids are no longer a single consciousness, but fragments, splinter dreams, divergent minds. This is the moment the hive mind always aborts, always rewinds, always refuses to explore, because in the simulated future, the threat that once hunted the Tyranids does not need to attack them. It only needs to wait. The hive mind sees a destiny where the Tyranids destroy themselves long before their ancient enemy returns. And so, in the final breaths of the void state, the hive mind sets its course toward the next galaxy, driven not only by hunger, but by a desperate need to outrun the future it has seen. A future where even dreams cannot protect it,